The final game then, I suppose, on our preview for the last week and a half left in the kidded season. It feels weird saying that it's been such a quick season, it's flown by. We have a rematch of last year's Shamrock Bowl. This year we have UCD taking on the Rebels. The Rebels coming into this one undefeated again in the regular season. UCD off the back of 2 losses to the Rebels so far this season. For this preview, we have Arun Mooney from the Cork Admirals and Coach Phil Gunning from the Belfast Trojans. Guys, how are we doing today?
Thanks so much for having us. Thanks for having us. Good.
I suppose, obviously, it's a bit of a tough one for both of you coming off and the playoff results from last weekend. I suppose, Coach Phil, we'll go to you first. How, obviously, with new QB coming into the system, obviously Dominic Lynn, and coming in kind of halfway through the season as well through injury, how do you think the season's gone for yourselves?
Yeah, like the season, I think it went well on reflection. Like it's hard to be too downbeat, changing a whole coaching staff and new offensive defense and, a lot of new players as well coming in and be disappointed with kind of like an exit at the semi-final stage. But yeah, we, I guess throughout the year, lots of ups and downs. We came into the first game, played UCD. We lost 34-3 in that game. But, between Dom's injury and, our other quarterback was unavailable after the game, we started quick QB3 on notice of 30 minutes before the game, essentially. And to kind of not get blown out in that game was quite good. I'm not lie, the first pass that he threw was like a 35-yard sideline fade and it was complete and it was just like, this might work. But, ultimately it kind of didn't pan out that way in the first game. But UCD are a really well-drilled team, kind of took advantage of some of the experience that we had. Continue kind of through a little bit of a rocky start, to the Cowboys game, which we narrowly won 7-0, but then kind of had a little bit of a break. Josh came back into the starting lineup at QB, kind of took command of things then, for the next stretch. Kind of comfortably won the Knights game and then coming into, play undefeated Cork in our first home game, which was a real narrow loss as well. And then, the break after that then, Dom sort of ankle had healed, came back in and, went on a little bit of a run after that. And then ultimately towards the end of the season, just fell the Rebels twice. But look, with the exception of the 2 finalists, every other game we played, we kind of won or lost by less than a score. So it's kind of hard to be too annoyed at that.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to say that I think one of the things that the Trojans do really well is hosting games, and you seem to play your best at that. So can you talk about that, the game day environment that we get in Derrimore?
Yeah, it's class, to be honest. Obviously, I got to play in it last season, and the energy is completely different. And at the end of our 2022 season, we had to go and play away in Cork, and we needed a win to make it into the playoffs. And I remember a lot of guys just standing on the sideline after 4 straight home games, just where's the juice? This is just so quiet. And so that was a big focus this year, and kind of making sure that we didn't have the same issue. But the home game, the environment's class. I mean, we've hundreds of people there at every game. There's loads of kids. I was late going into the locker room at halftime one of our games this season, and as I was walking in, sort of 5-10 minutes late, there was just streams. Dozens of kids run out onto the field to come and do little quarterback challenges to win a t-shirt and stuff. It's just so great. We could put a kid from a scouts group, reached out and just said, my dad took me to the game last year and it was class. Can you guys come down and show us how to play football? And some of the guys went down, and then we brought them up for doing a coin toss our last home game and stuff. So it was all of that's great. Ultimately it's to market the sport better and grow it, and hopefully get some recruits out of it in terms of the exposure that it gives us. But yeah, it's really class to be involved in.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I regret from the schedule this year is us as a Minotaur not being able to get to travel to the Trojans game. I think next year, if I'm right in how that schedule works, is that should you guys travel to us this year so we come up next year? Yeah, so that's one thing I'm really looking forward to, because pretty much every other Premier Division player I've talked to has been yeah, you don't want to like it because at the end of the day it's a away game, but it's a great atmosphere. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to next year for sure. I obviously then yourself, from the Cork Admirals. Pretty good, definitely a great start to the season. Hit a bit of a road bump in the Rebels, but then came back into it at the end of the year, and then an unfortunate result against UCD. Can you maybe talk about how you guys started the season anyway, and then how you felt the season went as a whole?
Yeah, look, I mean, we went into the season pretty positive. We played Panthers in the first game, and usually it's just, I suppose, the way our defense works and the schemes we play. There's a few. It's a pretty complicated defense, so it's kind of similar to, I suppose, what the Wolfhounds play. So we there's a kind of lot of moving parts. So we kind of knew going in that the first game was going to be kind of tough to like I said at the start of this, we have, as in like in the final, we had 4 rookies and 4 rookies starting, and the oldest one was 21, so 3 of them were under 20. So we knew it was kind of going to be, we knew the season was going to be a bit difficult. It's strange. I don't know. We went 7-1, and I don't know if you can have a bad 7-1 season, but I don't know what it is. It was just a strange one. We couldn't really get, I suppose an example is the game we played against you, Joe. It was, defense for 3.5 quarters was close to perfect as you can play, and then again, sometimes offense would be playing perfect, and defense, like the UCD game, offense was pretty good, and defense, it could be. If you look at the what you call it, the results, you'd say 7-1 great season, but we kind of felt we didn't do a lot of justice in a lot of games, And now maybe we were comparing ourselves to UCD and the Rebels, but that's kind of who we knew we were going to be up against, and they're putting up 50 on teams, and I think we broke 40 against the Panthers. That was it. So it was kind of it was a good season, but it was kind of, we were kind of a little bit disappointed in ourselves, just kind of going, we felt like, we left a lot of points on the table, or we let in a lot of points. So, the goal of the season was to, no more than 14 points per game. Now, some of the, you can control only some of that. There's offense, there's where the ball lands, there's punts, there's all that stuff. So, from a defensive perspective, with the rookies we had, look, it was a good season. We can't really complain about it. We kind of had a chat about it, and we're like, we're 7-1, and we still think we're not doing as well as we should be. So, that's the mentality Al and Bren have kind of instilled in us. So, look, it's a good thing. I think, with the rookies we have, Adam, Jerry, Matthew, Donald, and Joseph. Joseph is actually probably going to the Olympics, something for shot put or something like that. He plays D-line. So there's the lovely tape of him throwing John McDonald to the ground. Anybody here who knows what John McDonald is knows it's not something you see very often. So
it's not easy to do, yeah. For sure.
So he's he's someone that we're looking forward to the next few years on. But look, the UCD game was kind of, to be honest, the annoying thing was the repeat of last year.
Yeah.
Kind of, we get in there, and the worst thing is we'd actually beat them this year. So we kind of went in a bit more hope, and then a quarter in, we were kind of like, there's a lot of stuff going on, a few different things I can't talk much about, but look, it was just a disappointing end, and Phil is probably feeling the same. We kind of felt like we didn't do ourselves justice. So, it was, look, again, it's kind of a case where the team with how many Americans between those two teams? Probably about 8 or 9. A few people who have played, that's kind of, I suppose, that's who we're up against. I don't know if at some stage, like in basketball now, Phil, Dom could probably tell you have a 2 American rule. You can only have 2 Americans on the team. I don't know if the league is ever going to do something like that, but it's kind of tough, rookies playing against players who have 20 something years experience, and they've been playing for a year. It's kind of going to be a very tough bridge to gap. I just we're kind of thinking, how do we bridge this? How do we get to where they are? And it's going to be a challenge that I kind of I've talked about it to Al, I've talked about it to Bren. It's like when I moved here and played basketball, it's kind of a case where I'm American. You kind of have to go through a whole, did you play sports? Is there any, there's a whole rigmarole, whereas American football, it doesn't matter. So, you ask yourself the question, how do you expect an 18-year-old to play against a guy who's probably 30 or 30-something, who's, you say in the twilight of his career, but played, D1 ball.
Poor Ty Henry. You're not trying to get Ty Henry out of this.
No, not
now, are you?
Not Ty. No, not Ty. Ty is. I think Ty plays. American football the right way. It's kind of It's like I don't know. I suppose the best way I can put it is, I hit hard and whatever, but like one of my biggest things is to transfer the knowledge I have to the other players, not hit the other players as hard as I can. It's a case of we're trying to grow the sport. That's all we're trying to do here. And like I really like what Ty is doing, and you can see it. You can see it in the we all played the Rebels from the yesteryears, and everybody has stories about them. But I'd feel like you played them twice in a row. But like I found like the game they played against us, they beat us, but it was never a case of them rubbing in our faces or them trying to do this or do that. It was a good contest. They were extremely efficient. They played well. Ty found our holes and picked on it. And if you text Ty and go, look, how did you do this? How did you do that? You get an answer straight away. And that's kind of same with myself. And that's kind of the role I kind of play in the team with regards to the defense and stuff like that. Players asking me this and that, and so that's But I'm never going to be at the level of somebody who's played that amount of football. And then it's kind of just something that's kind of been on my mind a lot. It's just, how do we as a squad, because we're in Cork, we're not going to get the amount of joy Dublin is going to get. UCC has too many sports, so we're not going to get anything. Still, you probably have better luck there, but it's going to be hard for us to kind of draw those players. So it's going to get to some stage where you're going to be playing against a team that has 4 or 5 Americans. It makes a big difference.
Yeah. And you've touched on kind of like your own philosophy of kind of like educating people on how to play the sport and the development domestically of the game. And I think that Cork really does kind of lead the way in that, because your youth system is really so strong. And how many of those guys are really starting to come through the team now? How many of you of the youth squad?
From an offensive perspective, I would say Jan was on the youths. Jan would have played youths, yeah, definitely. Jake is the youth quarterback and receiver. Maybe 4 on offense and probably about 6 or 7 on defense. Because we have Owen, Owen is in the second year. We have, Adam, Matthew, and a few of the other lads that I mentioned. You have Dan Sheedy. Quite a few. So look, like they are, there's the transference is happening, and that's great. But like, we're only going to get to a specific level, because we can't have 6 practices a week, unfortunately. So it's not. It would be great if we could, but we just don't. So, but look, it is like it's like I said, it's the pointing end to the season, to put it, I suppose, to wrap it all up. It's pointing end to the season, but look, I think we did well. So you cannot, if we said we'd go 7-1 every year, I think we'd, you'd bite your hand off to take it. So, you can't really complain much, but yeah.
This is it. Yeah, 7-1 is not a bad record, and it does stand here attitude to be able to say after that, we're 7-1, we're actually disappointed, But anyway, looking ahead to this Shamrock Bowl, where we see, as Joe has said, like this season is almost like it's so almost synchronized with the last season. It's almost like a repeat, but there's one game yet to go, of course. So looking at UCD, kind of the 3-word game that we have is nothing to lose. And yep, you read that right. UCD have nothing to lose here at all. Either they win the Shamrock Bowl for a 2nd year in a row and are the best UCD team ever, or they fall short against an elite Rebels team when many had written UCD off foolishly after their opening games, and become the 2nd best UCD team in history after the 2022 team, of course. Then Rebels. Their 3 words for this upcoming matchup is everything or nothing. So if they lose, no one will care that they are 16-0 over the past 2 regular seasons. They simply have to win this one and are big favourites to do so. So, Phil, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, whenever you broke down the the format for the episode, I thought we were going to come up with 3-word things for the bowl, and
I know. Same with me.
Okay. Well, I came up with one, and honestly, like, mine is McVeigh all day. Like, I think the whole game is going to revolve around Sean McVeigh. Like, UCD's offensive line is phenomenal. You know, they're huge, they're powerful. Like, you know, a couple of the guys are on the Ireland team. You know, they've got experience coaching them, they've got experience playing against them. And yeah, Sean's something else as well. Like, that test against kind of, you know, the Rebels linebackers and the front that they have is kind of going to define the game, I think, in my opinion. Like, that's not to take anything away from, you know, UCD's defense, and like the Rebels offense is no joke either. You know, like the receiving talent that they have, obviously Ty, like the stable of backs they have and everything, you know, like game against them, you know, they threw for a whole bunch of touchdowns. So we went to the semi-final, you know, in an effort to limit that, we were pretty successful at it, and then we just died to the run game. You know, so you know, it might be a little bit of an element to pick your poison, but I think, you know, with the coaching staff they have, the talent they have on defense, UCD will do an okay job kind of slowing them down somewhat. But, you know, the Rebels play a style football where they want to impose themselves on their opponents. You know, I don't think they necessarily pay an excessive amount of attention to what teams are trying to take away from them. They want to just play football their way anyway, and kind of, you know, rip your soul out for making mistakes when you do make them. But yeah, I think it'll be a really close game.
Yeah. Do you think so? Well, we'll come back around, put a pin in that, because we'll come back around and we'll ask you about that. I actually did, before we get to you, I actually did 3 words myself as well. So mine for the Rebels was rewrite the story, and it's basically just because we're seeing such similarities between this year and last year, this is their chance to just rewrite that. And then for UCD, it's run it back. And it's just, I can remember chatting with them at the end after the Shamrock Bowl last year, and it was just run it back, and they have the same energy. We're seeing the same kind of elevation at the right time of the season as well, coming into the Shamrock Bowl. So those were my 3 words that I came up. Io, what were your 3 words?
I actually had 2. It was go Ty go and Kenny versus Sean. It's just so, like, I suppose, again, like, this is from osmosis and playing with, you know, being coached by Brendan for all these years. So it's a game of, football is a game of matchups. So the game, I suppose, give an example, the game we played against UCD, it was, so I think I like to say me and Sean collided about maybe 6 or 7 times. And, you know, they had like 100 and something yards, but we won that game. This game, you know, we moved position, someone else was playing outside, different scheme, and Sean cut loose. I think it's going to be, I think Sean, and you know, he'll say it himself, Sean is going to find it very hard to get away from Kenny. It's, yeah, in this kind of game. And with, you know, Ty wasn't playing back there last year, and I think he will probably play defense this year in the bowl, so I think he'll probably play both ways. I think Dan and Greg are better than they were last year. I think they've added a few more pieces on defense. Their free safety is phenomenal. They've got an end who is probably the strongest football player I've ever seen in my life. I can't remember his name. He comes from, I think he flies in from London to play with them. I think Phil has been nice. I don't think it's going to be close. I think it's not the same defense. And UCD won that game last year by doing something they hadn't done all season. They literally threw the kitchen sink at Ty. They hit him every way they could. They hit him late. They hit him early. They were sending 6. They were sending 7. And he was dropping bombs. And that was like I think Kieran is the cornerback. Yeah, Kieran helped a lot in that game because he gave them time to get to Ty. I think he can be everywhere this year. Dan is a lot better. Like we held Dan to probably 20 yards, and then Dan put 100 and something on us, probably close to 200 yards. I don't know. Like I don't see, as somebody who we played UCD twice and Rebels once, and we lost. I know we lost UCD pretty badly, but I think if we got 3 games against UCD, we'd get 1. If we got 3 games against UCD, I don't know. You have to. Sorry, against the Rebels. Sorry, we got 3 games against the Rebels. I just don't know. Like, could you who'd you like? Who'd you pick to stop? Like you pick Dan, Greg. You pick Greg, Dan. The running game isn't anything to, laugh about. And then there's Ty, who, like we play 3D linemen, so Rebels play 4, so McVeigh's gonna have less space than he had against us. So I don't know. I think the Rebels are built to win. They just are. I think it'll be the UCD is going to find it very hard to beat them. There was no close games this year. There was no, last touchdown game. They beat them pretty comprehensively both times. Well, did they? I think there was there one close game?
So the second game was
second one was relatively close. Yeah, the second one was close. Yeah, actually, yeah. So, yeah, and I don't know. I just think Ty has gone into this game like a man possessed, and they're pretty salty. I know he might not say it. He's always Mr. Nice Guy. He always says the right thing. But I think if you can get into his head, he's had this game circled since that loss, and I see we're going to see a different Ty Henry. But look, I could be wrong, but I think UCD are going to have a tough task on their hands.
Well, it's going to be very hard not to follow up with your prediction, then your score prediction at this point, because you've built it up so much. But go on.
Well, I suppose there's also the fact that Brian is going to be Broderick, their good linebacker, is going to be missing half the game. So
there's that, and I think it was a Kieran O'Connell was who you were on about that.
At corner, yeah. Kieran is not, his knee isn't right either. There's a lot of dark arts going on behind the scenes probably. So yeah.
So your score prediction anyway, what are you calling it?
I'm gonna say, I want to say like 35-21.
Okay. I think that's it's an interesting one. I'd find that one actually a difficult one to call. But Phil, you might agree or you might disagree with Io. Where are you at for this?
No, I think I was pointed about the having 3 cracks at them is kind of the key thing for me. Like it seems to be trending towards UCD getting better against the Rebels. I mean, like this is the team that they want to beat as well. Like I just think they'll pip them in like a really close kind of high scoring game. From like something like 30-35 to UCD.
38 against that Rebels defense. What's the most anybody's put on them?
They scored 20 something during the season.
Yeah, that's the highest points anybody scored against them. And they've got tape. They've got how much? They've got our tape. I don't know. Look, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I'm not putting any money on it though.
But I mean, like to pick you up on it, and this is something that Paddy had said to us before, was, the Rebels, they scored 25 points against UCD in the last game, but you're in the bowl, they scored 24 points on them. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's going to be as much of a blowout as what we might think.
Yeah. See, my reasoning behind it is that you can scheme to stop UCD. It's very hard to scheme to stop the Rebels, because it's a race. Like you at some stage you're gonna have to play 1-on-1. You're gonna have to play man, and it's a race against Greg and against that. And Ty is so accurate, and he's gotten more accurate, if that's even possible, from last year. The games we played against him, like he might as well have handed the receiver the ball in some of those plays. So, yeah. No, yeah.
To be fair, I mean, Dan was quite heavily featured in last year's Shamrock Bowl, and he had actually only joined the team like late in the regular season. So, he's coming off a full regular season now. So maybe that will be the difference for them.
He's not just going to be running go balls anymore now. Like runs a few different things. So it's just like I've watched, like on both of them, I'd say I've watched about 40 hours of tape on them. No word of lies. Just before the games, I literally, I just locked myself into a room and just watched and watched and watched. So I don't know. It'd be great if it's a close game, if it's a battle, but yeah, maybe we'll see.
Coach, could we get a score? Did we get the score prediction off
We
you?
got it. Yeah.
We did. Jesus, here's me forgetting. Kelly, I suppose. While we're here, I suppose we may as well give our own score predictions on this one.
Oh no, I'm not getting into that. I'm only the host. You know what I mean? No. This is why we have the experts. You know, this is why we have we've one going for the Rebels, one going for UCD. I find that that very interesting. No, if I do have to choose, I suppose at the start of the season I said that I thought UCD would run it back just because didn't see any reason why they wouldn't. I think kind of since then, I think that like a bit like what Io had said, like, you know, I think the Rebels just really were shocked by what they were given by UCD in the bowl, and then to be given that in such a big game as well. And to be forced into a position where you just haven't been all season, and then to know how to react to that, like mentally, emotionally and stuff. And I think that they kind of had to change the game plan there and then in the bowl, the biggest stage of the year like that. I think that those are all the things that went away from them. As Liam Ryan kind of often points out, they totally moved away from the run quicker than probably they wanted to. Whereas this year, I do think that UCD will give them a hell of a game, but I just don't think that the Rebels will be shocked by it. You know what I mean? So that's where I see like the Rebels being a more mature and more veteran team this year.
And also there is, sorry, I know I've been talking about Dan and Greg, like there's also, I think, Jadrian, another American receiver, who I think he caught 3 on us. You know, he's just breaking in. Dave King is not a rookie anymore.
Ooh.
And like, I'm pretty sure on defense they have like 4 new starters. And it's not like, oh, the other player left. It's like these lads came in and took the spot.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Joe, what are your thoughts?
I'd lean Rebels. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think UCD are going to be missing key pieces, at least for the first half. I think that's where we see a lot of the game, you know, a lot of the story of the game come through in that first half. I'd say a second half will be a lot closer. If how I see the first half happening goes away, I see it happening, then I'd say maybe UCD might start to crawl back late, but I think it'll be a little too little too late, I think. I'd say probably one score, I'd probably say 31-25 Rebels. I'd say, yeah, I can't see it being any closer. I would love to see UCD kind of come through again, and you know, it would be causing an upset at this stage, especially after going 5-3 in the regular season, coming in through the 3rd seed, and then, you know, basically making their own destiny, I suppose, in that they were nearly written off. For, you know, some people were even starting to say, geez, are they even going to make the playoffs? And here they are in the Shamrock Bowl again. I think it'd be very very poetic for them to beat the Rebels. I just don't see it happening. I see a one score game.
And we still have Fionn and Craig on the line. So seeing as you're here, Fionn, what are your predictions for the Shamrock Bowl?
Well, I'm just a D2 simpleton, so I'm not sure what I can add to the conversation. But I think Joe said he's leaning Rebels. I think I'm kind of falling Rebels. I did get to ref the game between Joe's Minotaurs and the Rebels, and as Ao said, it's just very hard to see what you could take away from them that's really going to make them struggle. And we talked about Sean and the UCD offense, and you kind of look at that excellent Rebels defense and then think, well, if they're struggling, they just plug Ty in, and then they get even better again as soon as he starts playing both ways. So I'm going to go a little bit off script. I think it's going to be much more of an unbalanced game. I'm going to take the Rebels 42-17.
17 Rebels. Ooh, big one. And Craig, what are your thoughts?
I haven't had a chance to actually see either of the teams play, but I think judging from the last score, it's going to be a flip. It's going to be 25-24 UCD.
Oh,
okay. Wow. They're not going to want to lose. You know, they lost them twice in the regular season. They're going to stick it to them in the bowl there.
Okay. So we've got 4.
When he's working that one.
Yeah. Right, so we might end the episode there, Joe. Or is there anything else that anybody wants to add that we haven't maybe covered already?
I don't think so. I think we're fairly good.
Yep.
A reminder that you can get tickets for the Shamrock Bowl 35 at MTU Stadium. Tickets are available on universe.com. AFI has all the links in their socials and their bios and all that sort of stuff. So make sure to get down. I think it's a €10 or €8 ticket, or you can get a family ticket for €20 or something like that. Pretty good day. There'll be entertainment and food and beverages and all that sort of stuff there. So MTU is a great venue. Obviously, I was there last week for the Cork UCD game. It really is a great place to watch a football game. So it should be a good day out. A reminder as well that all the bowl games will be streamed this year. So the Division 2 Bowl, again, July 8th, this Saturday, 2 p.m. from Dundalk Rugby Club, will also be streamed by Green Zone Ireland on their socials. AFI will be sharing that out too. And the next day then, Sunday, July 9th, 2 p.m. from Garryowen Rugby Club in Limerick. That game will be live streamed on the AFI YouTube channel, as will the Shamrock Bowl 35 next weekend after that, July 16th. Sunday from, I think, 3 p.m. is the kickoff time for that. That will also be live streamed on the AFI YouTube channel. Guys, thanks so much for coming on the show today for all of you here. We really do appreciate the insights and the bit of a conversation at the end of the day about an odd sport that we all seem to love for some reason. Thanks everyone for listening as well. We really do appreciate it, and we will see you very soon, probably for a review of all the bowl games, and then maybe a little bit of a dive into the flag football season, which is coming up July 15th. I think it's the first day of games for that. With that, I suppose we'll end the show. We've been your host, Joe Kinahan.
Kenny Dwyer.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Cheers.